Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bob's Bookshelf. I'm your host, Bob. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a beautiful book called Dynamic America, A History of General Dynamics Corporation. It was designed by Erik Nitsche in the late 1950s, and the book was published in 1960. Okay, so let's pin this screen and we'll get started. All righty. So this is one of my favorite books, really, of all time, even though the subject matter of the book is pretty problematic from our contemporary point of view. But I will get into that a little bit later. You'll see as we go through what this book is about. It comes in a beautiful slipcover with this interesting pattern on it. The book is bound in cloth, and the end papers match the slipcase. Okay. So what I want you to pay attention to with this book the most is the dynamic use of structure that Nitsche uses all the way through. Okay, so here we have our title page. This book is falling apart. You can see that the book block is separated from the end papers. We have a little intro. All right, and here we have the table of contents with these exquisite large numbers delineating each section, printed in light gray ink. Okay, and the sections are in a grid. So all these hang lines are the same all the way through, regardless of how many chapters there are in each section. And then it aligns on the left as well. Okay. So he's beginning to give us an idea of how this book is structured. Okay. It's the introduction, and this is the structure of the book. It's this square with two-column grid, this square, the two-column grid. The space around the edges is used in a dynamic way all the way through. And that's the genius of this in terms of its structure. So it repeats again, and then we get to a section opener, okay? Using only half of the two-column grid, and then in the second column, a very large number, and then the title over here. Okay, then we turn the page and immediately the structure starts getting a lot looser and a lot more interesting. Let me make sure this is nicely centered here. Okay, so you can see the column structure is the same, one column, two column. This bleeds, 1, 2, aligns on the left, and then there's these other images that break that edge. Okay. Same structure again here, but with this little tipped in booklet of a song from the time period, okay? Another interesting thing about this book is seeing how the reference material changes over time as things get more contemporary, and the graphic language that appears, right? So this is late 19th century music, sheet music design. So we have one column here, the other column here is taken up by the image. Another detail I'd like to call your attention to is the use of this archival material, but with light tints of color behind it, okay? So especially here with this light pink going with this brighter pink, it helps unify the page in a very beautiful way. Then we turn the page and the whole thing turns into this giant expanse of imagery, a mixture of rectilinear images and silhouetted images, okay? And it just gives the spread this beautiful dynamic quality. Some images bleeding the edges, and then the rest staying within the grid structure, okay? So we're already a long way from where we began, right? With two columns on each page. And as we work on our books in type 2, we're going to be working in a similar way. We're going to start here with this kind of thing, and then we're going to build our way out into more dynamic compositions like this, okay? So it's really terrific how these go through, all right? Another thing to keep in mind as you look at this is the idea of pacing, all right? How quiet or how dynamic each spread is as it follows itself, all right? So we have a big, almost full bleed picture here, and it repeats here. This is a portrait. This is like life size, right? So this guy is like looking right at us. Okay, so we have 3 of these kinds of things in the row, and then it quiets down again. We go to 2 columns and then a page of images. All right. So that's pretty much how this goes all the way through. And it's a matter of how do they change? So here's another spread that really breaks the system. These long strips of imagery going across. Some of them touch each other. Some have little gaps. All right. The ones that are newspaper clippings have these little ragged edges as if they've been torn out of the newspaper. And again, the light tints of color behind the black and white images adds a beautiful touch. This text here is the caption for each of the images. So there's a figure number here, very small, and then it repeats there with the explanation for what this image is. And then we go back to something quieter. And then that's that section. So we've seen this before, right? 1 column, a large, beautiful number, and a section title, and bugs flying through the video. Okay, and then we go on through here. All right, here's a nice touch where this image breaks into that one. So it creates this dynamic kind of balance on the spread. This here is also a very beautiful and interesting technique. This is a subsection within this chapter. So there's a light green tint of imagery behind this section about the history of the submarine. Okay. Beautiful line drawings and different kinds of blues and greens on a green background. Then it ends here, and then it goes back into the text. Okay. Now here's something interesting to pay attention to. This image is knocked out of the green background, so it's white on green. So it's not just a solid green everywhere. Same thing happens here. So what this does is it focuses your attention right on these places in the book. Okay. So really what I want you to pay attention to here is how this very simple structure can be varied in so many different ways to present all of this kind of information. Okay. All right, let's jump ahead a little ways. All right, here's another one of these little tipped in things. And as you see, as we get further into the future, the color starts getting more dynamic. Here's the pink again. Okay, blue printed on pink. Interesting gradient with all these black and white images floating on top. Okay, so this structure is tying us back to this structure, right? There it is, lining up. So in this case, the grid is more of an organizational principle. It's not a modular grid like you would expect to see in something from, oh, what would I call that? Well, I'll think about it and bring it up again later. Okay, let's move ahead even further to section 9. Okay, and now we're into the 1930s, the Great Depression, and we see the design vocabulary shifting again. Okay, here's another song from the time period. All right, and then 2 newspaper clippings. So at this point, it's pretty clear that what this company makes is munitions. They're an arms manufacturer. And the story of this company is how it goes from a small manufacturer of of engines and telephones and turns into a manufacturer of nuclear submarines eventually. So as beautiful as this book is, the subject matter is problematic for me, frankly. And it speaks to the power of how design, I mean, this is about blowing stuff up, people. It speaks to the power of design, how it can make almost anything palatable and beautiful. Submarines. Okay, let's move ahead further. So this is the work that Nitsche is probably best known for, these posters for General Dynamics. Those of you who have taken the media history class may have seen this or something from this series that Nitsche designed in the mid to late 1950s. This is about the Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered submarine. These guys also made airplanes that eventually got turned into passenger aircraft, and then they made military aircraft as well. Moving further on, they eventually get into the electronics business, and this is an especially beautiful spread of these silhouetted images floating against each other in this field here. So they also made telephones. Okay. All right, and then here at the end is this beautiful abstracted image that Nitsche designed. And I believe this was later turned into a poster for something else. Okay. And then credits, where did all these images come from? And then an index. And then some colophon information here at the end. Excuse me. So let's go back to the beginning. So remember, we began here, 2-column grid, square, floating in a larger field. And then the entire book plays off of that structure in different kinds of ways, okay? Lots of visual lessons to be learned here, okay? All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much. And I'm going to try to do this every week. Let's get rid of the pin. Okay. Wait, I'm doing this wrong. What am I doing wrong? Well, anyway. I have lots to learn, clearly. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm going to try to do this every week with a different book or a different series of books, each one elucidating some kind of idea or lesson that might be useful for us as we work on our books in class, okay? So thanks so much. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.